What is going on, y'all? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Rip the Net podcast, bringing you sports, culture, and everything in between. My name is Eric.
I'm Dre.
I'm Alexi.
And man, we are back with another episode, man. We did not give y'all an episode last week. Stuff, lifing. But we are back, man. What have y'all been up to? What's on your guys' minds, man?
You thought it was over, huh? You thought we quit, huh? It's far from over. You know what time it is, man. We back at it again. There's more stuff to cover. A lot been going on. A lot of good entertainment in the summer has been hitting. I won't lie, but I'm excited to talk sports again.
Yeah, man. A lot of entertainment, man. Had me feeling real super and real fantastic for this podcast. Let's get it, man.
Okay, man. Okay. Well, we're actually going to start off with some interesting, maybe not so, well, depending on who you ask, I'll say some darker news, man. This happened last week, and I think it was worth talking about. I know we haven't covered wrestling itself in a while. However, I do think that it's worth mentioning, man. Hulk Hogan, the wrestling icon, pro wrestling, I would say, belongs on the pro wrestling Mount Rushmore in many people's eyes. We can get into that debate another day, but basically a man who popularized the sport of professional wrestling in the US and was a big catalyst in making it a worldwide phenomenon. He passed away last week at the age of 71, which came to a surprise to many people, including myself. I honestly, I don't know. He's from an era that was when the WWE was very early on in its popularity. He was one of the first big superstars in the WWE, and there's a lot of his peers have passed away, but I did think I don't know, it sounds weird to say, but I wasn't expecting to get that news this early on. 71 is still a very, very early age, and so it did come to a surprise to many people. But my question to you both, did you hear about this news, or when you heard about this news, what was your reaction? I know there's been a lot of things circulating on social media about a lot of sketchy things that he was involved with or sketchy things that he said. So what were your reactions? What did you see when the news first came out?
Yeah. I'll start because I feel like I got maybe less to say than Dre, just because I don't know wrestling like that. But we do not care, bro. Get that racist out of here. That dude said some terrible crap and had no apologies for it. So someone like that, man, he went to the basement. That's all I'll say. So it is what it is. I can recognize he was maybe an icon of the sport, but get some new icons in this sport, because that is not what you want to have on your pedestal. That's just my outsider take.
Okay. That's a very fair take. That's a very, very fair take. No, it definitely caught me off guard. Just because I guess 71 is still pretty young. Like, people generally live a good amount longer than that these days. All things considered, but we do know he has a past of no matter what they said in that Vince McMahon documentary, we know that brother, defamation would, I guess he passed, so who's suing me, bro? He was on the juice, bro. We know. Like, let's be real. They can try to spin it whatever way. In his youth, that brother, maybe even because he still was in decent shape until almost until his death, pretty much. So maybe still, but we know in his youth, that brother was using a couple things in the back of the locker room to look a little bigger. Pause. And it was working for the product. So I think it's not a reach to say that would have contributed to such an early and untimely death. And so I can say, although it did catch me off guard, once I put two and two together in my head, I was like, okay, I guess you kind of reap what you sow in that sense. But I doubt he had any regrets, because he definitely lived a crazy life, one where if you have to, people look at this differently, but separating art from the artist, and for me, wrestling's more an art form than a sport. It's definitely, it's athletic for sure, but in a way, it is an art form, and they are artists out there. And if you're looking at Hulk Hogan, the character, not Hulk Hogan the person, Hulk Hogan the character is undeniably Mount Rushmore, and was the GOAT for a good amount of time until a newer wave came in. So in that sense, a very accomplished life. Hulk Hogan the person? Nah, buddy. I mean, he does have that one clip where he was bumping the Jeezy in the truck, and he was vibing out. I mean, okay, but realistically, bro, what are you doing? Or what were you doing? I guess you're gone now. So, but that dude, no remorse. He did not care. I'm pretty sure he was scamming too, or there was some kind of controversy with like some college thing as well. I don't remember all the details, so I won't get into it. But he just post WWE career, there's a lot of things that you would not look back kindly on, and it's a shame because like it's hard to separate, and it does tarnish his legacy to an extent, especially because of the era he came from and kayfabe and all that kind of stuff. You do try to kind of see the character and the person melding into one. So now you're looking back on Hulk Hogan, the character, like, oh, this dude's spamming the N-word. Like, what's going on, bro? Like, they're just like, that kind of disconnect does end up coming in. So it is a shame in that sense. But even from even if you want to leave all that on the back burner for now and look purely from the on-screen standpoint, we even talked about this earlier this year. I'm not even trying to see this dude pop up. I wasn't trying to see this dude pop back up on WrestleManias and things like that. He was providing nothing. Maybe 15 years ago, Hulk popping up was a dope event, but now he provided no value to the brand anymore. The people that were excited about Hulk Hogan from his heyday, those people are way beyond caring that much about the product in 2025. So it just didn't hit anyway. So I don't know. It is weird because in a sense, I think a word you might have been looking for too, Eric, was like he did feel immortal out of his generation. Like he said, a lot of his peers had passed, but it felt something about Hulk was like he's not like he just nothing could touch him. But obviously, Father Time defeats everyone, especially racists. So that's unfortunate. See you later.
Bro, I get the vibe that if he were like 20 years younger, he'd be the type of dude like on a Nelk Boys podcast, maybe with a crypto scam. Like, he'd just be that type of dude, you know?
Definitely Nelk Boys. What they're doing recently.
Yeah, what they would. That's its own discussion.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's an interview. I'd be surprised if there wasn't. That's like, I feel like Hulk Hogan is like synonymous with that kind of like, with that crowd.
So do you say the N-word only in the songs, or do you like say it outside of the songs too?
Oh,
like,
he does have a podcast. It's from June of 2023.
Oh, he does?
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy, man. And I do have a few things to say. I like that Dre mentioned the fact that we did talk about this a few episodes back. It may have actually been our like practice episode, so that one never like made it to the internet. But we were reacting to the inaugural Raw on Netflix, and Hulk Hogan showed up for that taping, and that ended up being his final taping or his final pro wrestling appearance. And so it's really sad to see, because obviously in the wake of his death, a lot of videos have resurfaced, and that one I have seen so much, and it's so crazy to see how he would turn up in the WWE. You said 20 years ago. Yeah, so like 2005, he was out of the business for some time at that point, but he was so loved. Whenever he would come out, like, he'd just get the strong ovation. A lot of people would be excited to see him, and he was able to do his whole gimmick, and to the applause and to the ovation of the fans. So it's so crazy to see that in the age of social media, where information is a lot more accessible, where a lot more things have come to light, his reputation completely changed because he got booed out the building in that Raw on Netflix. It was so sad to see, but it's understandable, right? And it was a Raw that was filmed in LA, so you got people who are going to respond to a racist. You have people who are going to respond to a controversial figure. And let me make it clear, man. You guys mentioned, like, yeah, in the ring, iconic, out of the ring, problematic, and racist. There's so much more to his story too, in the sense that a lot of stories have come out within the past few years that really highlight just when you reach that height, man, your ego gets to a point where you feel like you're untouchable and you really put others beneath you, and you actually end up sabotaging a lot of people who are below you. So there were things from him snitching on a secret formation of a union. There were wrestlers who were trying to form a union while he was contracted by the WWE, and he knew that would mean less money for him. So what did he go ahead and do? He went over to Vince McMahon, the chairman. He snitches on this group of wrestlers who confided in him, who trusted in him, and sharing that piece of information. They ended up getting fired. Obviously didn't end up getting paid for their labor, because it was a lot easier to fire a group of wrestlers than to, sit back and pay them. So there's that. There's people say that he is partially responsible for the fall of WCW, which was the rival company of WWE, because when he was under contract, he was making so much money, and his contract included a clause where he had the freedom, he had creative freedom, meaning if he did not want to lose a match, he could make that call, which is unheard of in pro wrestling contracts. And what does that do? That ended up really hurting the product. That made him an untouchable figure post his prime. And so it really did cause for just general disinterest from fans, and eventually was a huge catalyst in having that company fall. There's a lot more. He didn't want to drop a match against Shawn Michaels back in like SummerSlam of 2005, and Shawn Michaels, being the icon that he is, ended up allowing for Hogan to beat him. But you put Shawn and Hogan together, I'm sorry, but I think Shawn clears him by so much when it comes to in-ring ability, and I don't think that's a controversial take.
No. That's like just fact. Like that's just literally fact.
Yeah. So there's just so much, and I haven't even touched on the racist allegations, and I haven't touched on anything else like that. But he just had. It's so sad to see how such an iconic figure had his true colors come out, and it wasn't long until people just grew really tired of him and just didn't really care to see him on the product that once made him so famous. So it's sad to see. It's crazy to see, if I'm being honest. I personally am torn by it. I was a little hurt by it though, because I remember being a kid and really loving Hogan. Obviously I didn't see him really for his active years, but he would make an appearance every now and then, and I definitely was educated on who he was. So there is still that image that I hold on to. But when you live in the age that we live in and the truth comes out, man, you really have to eat your words. You really have to stand on your actions and what other people have known you, or have known you to be the person that you've been, if that makes sense. So really sad, really unfortunate. But yeah, man, I will say, I just as a little aside, I know I mentioned his in-ring ability, but just before this taping, or just before we started recording this, I actually was watching a little bit of his WrestleMania 18 match against The Rock. And so that was back in 2002. So that was post his prime. If anyone ever wonders what is the hype about pro wrestling, how is it that a lot of people can get into a match that is so clearly orchestrated and predetermined, I strongly encourage you to watch that match. It's Hollywood Hogan against The Rock, WrestleMania 18. It's crazy. Just the charisma in the ring, the crowd interaction, the overall just engagement from the two wrestlers is amazing. So that's just a little aside. Probably one of the best wrestling matches you will ever see, but you know, that's just a little aside. But yeah, man, do you guys have anything else to say about Hogan?
No, not much.
No.
I think you put a nice bow on that. I will say I've never been attached. Maybe this is a different conversation about the eras of pro wrestling. I personally even never been attached to the character of Hulk Hogan. Like, I respect him, knowing the history, but respect, you know, what he did for the business and knowing the history. But even I think he's very much a product of his time, and especially the 80s. And I feel like that character really resonated with Americans at that time. But even growing up, getting into wrestling, and even when he would make appearances, it never really hit for me like that persona. I always thought that was interesting, but I think a lot of the fans from that time still were invested even into the 2000s, maybe early 2010s, until really the PG era was like probably too much for them to really hold on to. So that's why Hulk could still hit back then. But I think wrestling in 2025 wouldn't miss that side of that is a little too archaic, I feel, these days anyway. We talked about that in that practice episode. But yeah, no, I think that was a good bow on it.
For sure, man. Cool, man. Well, you know, it's crazy that this comes the week before SummerSlam. A huge week for the pro wrestling industry. But yeah, man, just a very interesting headline that I don't think anyone was expecting. Cool, man. Well, Alexi, do you want to take us into the next topic?
Yeah, man. So, Man United fans, this one's for you. You know, we got some signings. We got Mbuemo done. We got Cunha. But as we all know, Manchester United is quite possibly the most broke club in the Premier League. And we needed some people to leave. We needed some people to get out of here. And with all due respect to Marcus Rashford, it was his time to go. You know, he, in my eyes, I don't want to call him a legend, but he was certainly an iconic figure for this era of Manchester United. You know, prophesized as being the young lad who would take us to, you know, the top of the Prem, to the Champions League, and due to various circumstances, including his own lack of talents in some moments, it did not happen. But he was a bit of a figurehead for the youth and for what the academy could produce. And so he is officially transferred to Barcelona on loan with the option to buy. So far from his friendly matches with Barca, I haven't seen much to impress me or to impress the Barca fans, but I wish him all the best. I really do. It would be honestly really cool to see him over time, like if he does well this season and if he's able to stay on longer and have a real role there. That'd be really cool to see. I mean, he's only the second British player, I believe, to play for Barcelona as well, after I'm blanking on his name. Dre, you might know.
What position?
God. Lineker.
Really? Oh, Gary Lineker. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
gotcha.
Gary Lineker. And yeah, for me, I think this works out for Barca as well. I mean, they needed some more. I believe he's playing on the left wing. I could be, from the clips I saw, I believe he was on the left wing. And so I think they just need more manpower back there, you know, substitutes, you know, have a nice rotation for the team. So I'm happy for Rashford. Hopefully he does well there. Yeah, do you guys have any thoughts on this transfer? What maybe it means symbolically? You know, if it has more meaning symbolically than it has literally, I don't know.
No, it is interesting seeing him go to Barcelona. I just, there's a few conversations I want to have about it. None too crazy, but one is that a lot of people. Okay, let's talk purely from a footballing perspective. I do think it is a good fit. I do think he's never lived up to be the talent I think a lot of people thought he could be. But I think that still doesn't mean he's not. He doesn't have the potential to be one of the, at least a good, like a really good solid winger / forward in Europe. I don't think he's ever going to reach that top level, and that's fine. Not every player does. I think if you're going to a team like Barcelona under a coach like Flick, who gets the most, like, to be fair, Rafinha before this last season, no one saw Rafinha as one of these top forwards in the world. He was what, at Leeds before, and he went to Barcelona. He was solid. He wasn't anything crazy. And
like
Flick,
Rashford a couple seasons ago.
Like Rashford.
He had that one season with Ollie.
Yeah, Rashford. Yeah, he's hot and cold. He even had a good season under Ten Hag, to be fair.
True.
But Flick, I think, is a coach that could really unlock him, especially the way Barcelona plays. The key is he really has to get Rashford to buy in to being a hard worker, because, not saying he's not, but Barcelona presses crazy, and Rashford's gonna have to buy into that press. He can't be the guy who's just walking off. All those front line, you could say that
we saw in the friendly already. He was jogging to the defenders. He wasn't running there.
Exactly.
So even, he's got the old habits. It's like, can you really teach an old dog new tricks? He's not an old dog yet, but he's acting like it.
He's almost there. But I think that's Barcelona's going to hope over the course of the season. Can we get him to buy in? Is he going to be worth? And we should specify it is a loan, and it's an option to buy. So
yep,
he could end up going back to United next summer. But we're going to hope. And I'm sure United fans are going to hope, and Barcelona fans, if it works out for everyone, that they can get him to buy in. He's successful, and Barcelona will take him on full time. I think really in that system, especially because he doesn't have to be the main man. I think United, there was too much pressure on him to be like the main goal scorer, especially because your strikers end up working out. They were like, we need Rashford to be that guy, like Bruno creatively and Rashford goal scoring wise. At Barcelona, you're like the third, fourth option. Fourth, fifth option an attack. Obviously, Yamal, Rafinha starting, Lewandowski up top. Lewandowski is on the older side, but now Rashford could come in for Rafinha. He can come in for Lewandowski up top. But even before him, Ferran Torres was doing a great job backing up Lewandowski last year as a striker. I don't know. He might be trying to leave, so I don't know how that's going to work out. Maybe Rashford replacing him in the long run, but I do think he has an opportunity. If we see Rashford pop up with 10, 15 goals across competitions just coming off the bench next year, that'll be a successful season, I think, for him, at least to get back on track. Because I think because this is such a pivotal season for a lot of players, and I'm going to talk about a certain group of players in a second, going into the World Cup, all these players really want to be able to put on a show, put on a showcase for their respective managers, and for England, Thomas Tuchel. Rashford's going to want to go to the World Cup. He's only, 27? He's going to think, okay, I have this competition in me. I can do one more run, because he's been ousted from the England team for years now. He's going to want to think, I can prove myself that I can get back in the squad for this World Cup, because it's probably his last World Cup. England has so much wide talent, but specifically on the left, there is a bit of a gap. Like, there's some coming through, like Gittins and others, but really on the left, Rashford's going to be like, why can't I start there? Especially because with the Euros, England were just such an unbalanced team. Rashford could have opened up that left side. Maybe Anthony Gordon will still get ahead of him. But I think this is such a big year. And I think I want to transition that into another conversation where I see a lot of United fans too, saying he doesn't deserve the move to Barcelona. That's been a big narrative online. Like, Rashford doesn't deserve it. Why does he get to go to Barcelona? And I just never understood that. Like,
since when are players deserving of
how do you determine deserving
Yeah.
moves other than the team wants them? So you deserve it. Like, if the team's willing to buy you or loan you or whatever, then I think inherently you deserve that move. I
also don't get why United fans would be hostile towards Rashford, given he's always been even though he was ousted, he did not react like other players have, like Garnacho or like Sancho, throwing a fit, being a freedom fighter, whatever. Nah, this dude put his head down and got to work, did his thing with Aston Villa for the season. And it's always been respect. And he's even said publicly, he has nothing against Man United. It's a difficult time. And it's I acknowledge what he's done for the club too. The moments he's given, the memories he's given. It's not like this dude fumbled anything. I would say it's kind of exactly that. At United, he had a pressure put on him externally. Like, we all had this idea, like how I intro, like that he was going to be a top academy player who would help lead us to a new age. Like, that was thrown onto him. He wasn't saying any of that. He wasn't acting like that. So I think this idea of like him not deserving move to Barca, I don't know. That's just some weird fan base shit. Like a minority of the fan base. I think most people are happy for him, and like this quite literally is the best option. Like, literally, he's getting the new start he needs, a new challenge, a great challenge on a great team, and we are getting some funds and some space to, you know, give Ruben Amorim the resources he needs to really build his team and not have to just use the pieces that have been cobbled together for years.
Exactly. And I think United being one of the worst selling teams in Europe, honestly, these days, you're gonna want this to go well. If you're a United fan, you're gonna want him to go crazy at Barcelona. Next summer, Barcelona's like, we have to exercise this option. We take him, spend however much on him, and United make, because whatever it is gonna be profit because he's an academy player. So you're gonna want that. That's gonna be amazing for United's books. And even if he does well at Barcelona, you shouldn't even want him back at United. That has proven to be a toxic situation. Even if there's mutual respect there, there's just so much with the English media and all that
big part of it.
You should want, okay, we get the money for Rashford, like an actual transfer fee. He goes to Barcelona, that goes well. We get the money, we can rebuild the squad. It should really be a win-win in the end. Eric, I want to hear what you have to say if you have any thoughts on it first, because I do want to get into some players you slightly mentioned there, Alexi.
Yeah.
For sure, man. I mean, you guys have said a lot, but I think when I see this transfer, it really is a no-brainer. Like, you have Man U, as you guys mentioned, who's trying to free up just some money, and so you get him out of the club, and now the club that's bringing him in, as you guys mentioned, needs that flexibility, needs that depth on the attack. You mentioned that Lewandowski's getting up there, man. So he's offered so much to the club, but you know, it'd be interesting. You have someone who's 10 years younger, potentially entering their prime, who can potentially be part of your future. So I think, just personally, it was nice to see the signing. This actually got me excited. Like, I'm like, man, as I've said before, it can be hard for me to like stay in touch with like soccer news, but this is one of those headlines that makes me excited, and it's a signing for an exciting team that has high hopes, that has already a high ceiling, and now you've just added a reliable backup option. And I think when you look at it from Rashford's perspective, he should be excited and should be driven to prove himself and to potentially carve out a new home for himself, to create this like new path on this fresh start. Yes, I mean, being a backup option, he knows he's going to be the backup option. I think he may not want that to be the case, but the reality is he is going to be the backup. There's no chance that he starts over Yamal or Rafinha, and no chance I would even say that he, like you guys said, like Lewandowski is going to be up there. Like, he may not even clear Lewandowski in that sense. So who even knows how much playing time he gets? I am really interested to see just how much we see him. But he's definitely a force, especially if he's only coming on for maybe 10, 15 minutes, like in a high profile match. Like, you know, I think it's a no-brainer. I'm happy to see it, and it's obviously a very low risk move from Barcelona. So I'm happy to see it. I'm excited to see what happens. And yeah, I'm rooting for all sides here. And yeah, am I biased? Of course, but I'm rooting for all sides. So you have that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, for Barcelona, like you say, low risk. Another club that's in financial trouble. So I think for these two clubs to be working together, Barcelona needs players they can take on loan, because they can't be spending crazy money on anyone. And United needs to get rid of players that they can't get crazy fees for. So it really is like a match made in heaven in that sense. And even more from, like you say, coming on the last 10, 15 minutes, even if Rashford's not a player who's going to press the whole game, if you can get him to buy in, like, or we're going to bring you on and you can continue the press with fresh legs for the last 10, 15 minutes, that's massive. and he also gives Barcelona a different dynamic, which I thought they missed against like Inter, for example, where they ended up going out there a lot. Both Yamal and Rafinha both want to get ball to feet. They want to like drop deep, take and go beat players and drive on. Rashford can just run. Like Rashford would just run and hope for a ball over the top or some kind of ball through. That really stretches the back line and changes the dynamic of Barcelona. So I think it'll be fun to watch. We could be looking, I know it's super early, it's still July, so it could be crazy to say, but we could be looking at Rashford as a potential Champions League winner in a year's time. That would be crazy. And who would have thought you'd ever put that by his name, coming from Manchester United, who was the worst Manchester United in history, pretty much, Premier League history at least. But speaking of Manchester United, and we don't spend too much time on this, but there are the Manchester United 5 that were training separately from the main team. We got one Rashford who ended up getting his escape, and the other 4 who were still sitting there hoping to find some kind of move: Garnacho, Sancho, Antony, and Malacia is the last one. But we don't really have to talk about him. Nobody care about no left back, bro. We're talking about the wingers pretty much. Sancho, Garnacho, and Antony, the last 3 remaining there that people are going to want them to move. They've fallen out with the club in certain senses, and they're tough to move because, one, the contracts, well, not Garnacho necessarily, but the contracts and just the fees that United are going to want for them, but they've already devalued them, having them separated from the club. So if you're going to tell everyone, we do not want these players,
not even though, because I'm not sure if you saw the news. Ruben Amorim was recently asked about, players expected to leave and maybe who have been forced out from the first team. And bro has got the strategy down.
Okay.
Because he was like, I don't want anyone to leave.
It's not the case.
I want players to fight for this team. And if players want to play in the World Cup next year, they're going to have to play this season. They can't be sitting on the sidelines. And with him saying that, he also said, the club's prices that they've set for these players, like, they're not budging. They will keep these players and force them to work if they want to play in the World Cup. If they don't want to play in the World Cup, then fine. Freedom Fighter Sancho can go do his private training with the kids at Man U, under 16, whatever. And, that's how it works out. But I love the fact that the hierarchy is not budging. We are desperate for money, but we're at least not going to act like it. We're going to hold our ground with what the players are worth. And if the players are going to act out of line, like Garnacho has, then, they have the chance to redeem themselves. I mean, Amorim is giving these chances. He's like, it's more players for me who are fighting and who want to play well. Like, at the end of the day, that's a positive for him as a manager. He doesn't care about all the other shit around it. So I can respect that approach. And, I've mentioned before, these Italian clubs love to be like, oh, Garnacho's so good. He's in a toxic situation at Manchester United, but they're not going to pay the price. They won't put the money where their mouth is. And if you're going to do that, why should we drop the price for you? You're just making the situation harder for yourself. So.
But I did see, and maybe you're more tapped into United than I am, maybe like a week ago, that they did slash Garnacho's price a little bit to like 40 mil or something. I think they wanted like 50, 60, and they said, okay, we're willing to do 40. I doubt they're going to.
I didn't see that report, but I believe it. I mean, like, I think still 40 mil.
Honestly, that's an overpayment. Amount. That's an overpayment. Because
after this season, that's an overpayment. Yeah.
Honestly, I saw with that news was like that there are 3 Prem clubs interested that are going to battle for it, and that's what they dropped to the 40. And it was Villa, Chelsea, and I think Spurs, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely Villa and Chelsea were 2 of them. They were saying Villa was in the lead, but I was saying, bro, Chelsea, if you spend 40 mil on Garnacho, I'm tight, bro. Like, you should not be spending more than 25 mil on this dude. He's an average talent, bro. That's not gas.
Dude, I don't know why you would want him even, because it's like you've seen the toxicity too.
It does not.
It's like sense. That's the thing. He's shown his colors as like an immature child.
They let him go.
So it's like, you really want to bring that into your first team?
especially because right now we have such good vibes, and we're apparently looking at Xavi Simons, which would be very interesting. And I'm like, if we can get Xavi Simons or Garnacho, like, what are we doing, bro? What are we doing? We finesse Arsenal into Madueke. Let's reinvest that money into something worthwhile. If we go and take Garnacho off United, we're doing them a favor. Like, we really don't need to be helping them out in that
Literally.
sense. So, I'm very curious.
It would be crazy.
I was hearing Sancho to Juventus potentially,
And Dortmund. They're finally coming back for 17 mil apparently, which is crazy when you think about how much we bought him for. Like,
that's a crazy loss, bro.
Like, that is unfathomable, bro. It's crazy how many transfers have gone bad that like we've overhyped in the past. Like, one of the worst in my mind, Donny van de Beek, bro.
Oh my god,
that does not get talked about enough for bad transfers from Man U.
Yeah, true. Honestly, it was so bad that it literally just got forgotten. I think people talk more about like the wingers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Man U has done some diabolical transfer business over the last however many years. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think that's really the big news in the summer. You know, the Mbeumo one, they got it done. It was looking a little shaky, but they eventually got it done. I think we'll transition this. I think Newcastle, looking at Visa, kind of spurred on United because I think Brentford weren't going to let go of Mbeumo and Visa in the same window. So once Visa was potentially on the market, United was like, okay, we're not gonna lose our opportunity. So they ended up paying. It was crazy. They delayed for like 2 months or a month and a half, and they ended up just paying the price anyway. Like, the price didn't end up dropping, which is funny. But speaking of Newcastle, the Isak saga. Oh boy. This has been one of the most entertaining transfer windows I've seen in a long time. At least since I've been a fan, it's definitely up there. But at the same time, it's one of the more scary ones because the league leaders, Liverpool, the league champions, who last season, I think they spent 14 mil all summer on Chiesa, won the league with Jurgen Klopp's team, Arne Slot's slight new adjustments to the squad. This season, they said, hold up, we're about to drop like 400, 500 mil this summer, bro. If you count up all their transfer business, it's actually absurd the amount of money they're spending. And I'm not one to talk. I'm a Chelsea fan. City fans, you can't talk. You guys spend a lot of money too. Arsenal, you've been spending money recently. United spends money. They're just bad at it. Like, we all spend money. But Liverpool fans, you're not slick. Y'all always like, oh, we always do this without money. We always do this without money. Now you're just like us. You can't do that moral compass thing with us anymore. You guys are spending near 500 mil this summer. If you do end up getting the biggest target in the Premier League this summer, Alexander Isak, arguably top 5 striker in the world. You know, you had that conversation. Haaland, Kane, Lewandowski still scored like 40 goals last year. Mbappe, if you want to call him a 9, which is kind of weird, but we'll say we put him up there as a 9. Even if you remove Mbappe, Isak's in that conversation. Gyökeres, we're going to hope to get in that conversation. I can't really put him there yet. But Osimhen, who's playing out in Turkey, so a little Mickey Mouse. But either way, Isak's in that conversation. And right now, Newcastle, who bought Isak when no other club was really looking at him, brought him up to be one of the best strikers in the world. Amazing season last year. Brought them their first trophy in however many, like 60 years or something. Now and they got Champions League on the final day of the season, which that was always the condition. Isak was always going to leave eventually, but if they got Champions League, the thing was he was going to stay because he wanted to play Champions League football. But Liverpool, they played a blinder this summer, 5D chess. So here's the game. Here's the game. Newcastle with Isak going into next year, they're thinking, okay, we kind of want to re-up, get a little more depth in the squad. Our right wing, we got Elanga, who's better than Jacob Murphy, who's on our right wing. We got Gordon on the left, Isak up top. Let's go get Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt. Nice young striker, a lot of potential, kind of a similar baby Isak, they call him. Because eventually we're going to lose Isak probably next summer. So we have Ekitike, bring him through, and hopefully in a year he can start for us. Solid business, I think, Newcastle. And Newcastle, you know, who have the richest owners in the Prem, but can't spend any of the money because, you know, PSR and all that stuff. They got finesse. I ain't gonna lie, but Liverpool hears that. They're like, we kind of want Isak and we kind of want Ekitike, but okay, we'll make you a little deal. Give us Isak and we'll let you sign Ekitike. You want the Ekitike situation, so if you just slide us Isak this summer, even though we already spent like 350 mil or however much, slide us Isak for a little 120, and you guys can go have Ekitike, run with the baby Isak. We'll just take the better one. Newcastle, of course, who just got Champions League football, thinking Isak, a little loyalty there. We had some good years. We brought you in. We brought you to the top level. They're like, hell no. Why would we give you Isak and we take the lesser player? We'll just keep Isak. You guys can have Ekitike. Sure, we'll just, that's not a crazy ultimatum. We're just going to take Isak into next season. Liverpool say, okay, cool. We'll take Ekitike. Signed. Ekitike, 95 million to Liverpool. 95 million euros to Liverpool. Big signing. Massive signing. We know, obviously, the loss of Diogo Jota. They're probably going to get rid of Nunes. Liverpool needed to fill in that spot. They get Ekitike, and they look scary. They have Salah, Wirtz, Ekitike. Still have, at that point, Diaz. Gakpo is still there. Scary attack. And all of a sudden, we hear little rumblings. Alexander Isak says, I want out. I want to leave Newcastle this summer.
Right after the Gyökeres signing at Arsenal,
right, let's throw that in
that
there. That
dude did not want Arsenal.
Let's throw that in there too. Let's rewind the timeline. For years, Arsenal fans, after finding out Alexander Isak wears the number 14 because his idol is Thierry Henry, the Arsenal legend, the Premier League GOAT, they're like, oh my God, this guy is the next Thierry Henry. Only makes sense when he leaves Newcastle. The step up is Arsenal. So Arsenal fans for years have been saying it's only a matter of time. Isak leaves Newcastle, he's coming to us. But this summer, they needed a striker, and Isak wasn't on the market. So, okay, we're going to have to decide Šeško or Gyökeres. They go back and forth. They finally signed Gyökeres after Šeško. They were pushing that bargain too hard. They finally signed Gyökeres. They need a striker this summer. Arteta, it's title or bust, or some kind of silverware or bust. And Isak is probably going to go to Barcelona next summer or something. They just have to miss out on Isak. All of a sudden, like the day after they signed Gyökeres, Isak's all of a sudden like, I'm on the market. Like, what's Arsenal fans are tight. I would be tight if I was them too, bro. This unattainable striker just all of a sudden is putting in a transfer request, and technically they say it wasn't a transfer request. He just kindly asked if they could look at some options, whatever. Basically, he wants to go. So now all of a sudden Alexander Isak wants out. Newcastle's like, what the hell? We wanted Ekitike. We just let Liverpool sign him because we were going to back you going into next season, and all of a sudden you want out. And guess who's the number one bidder? Liverpool. Liverpool is not playing games. They bought Ekitike, and they said, you know what? Here go 2 more for y'all. We'll also get Alexander Isak, which is, you might think, how do Liverpool have this much money? Well, to be fair to them, people said the Coutinho money and the Luis Suarez money, the whatever. Realistically, they've spent well, and also honestly not spent in certain windows to be able to save up the money. They won the league. They got decently far in the Champions League. They have a lot of money building up. And also, since the Ekitike sale, they say, you know what? We're going to go sell Luis Diaz for 75 mil to Bayern Munich, which to me, I ain't gonna lie, that's an overpay. But Bayern's stupid. Yeah, Bayern's stupid, so why not? And to be fair, they had the Musiala injury. Maybe they're a little desperate. But still, to me, that is an overpay. But Liverpool, after Chelsea, they're probably the best sellers and one of the best sellers in Europe in terms of getting crazy fees for players that probably don't deserve them. So now all of a sudden, Liverpool have another 75 mil in the bank, and they're going to go get Alexander Isak. Now, as of recording, this is not confirmed. It's still rumblings. It's still looking like they're talking. They're trying to figure out a bid. I think Newcastle's going to hold out for maybe 140 mil. I think they're looking for at least. But all signs are pointing to Liverpool having an attack of Salah, Verts, Ekitike, Gakpo, and arguably to some people the best striker. I'm sure to you, Alexi, the best striker in the Premier League, Alexander Isak. And to me, it's a close 1A, 1B with Holland. So either way, it's absolutely absurd. And there's a little more that's coming after that. But what do you guys think about? I just waffled for a while, but
that was a great explainer for context for everyone. And I mean, you said it. It's terrifying, dude. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to watch the Prem the next 5 years if this happens, because this is just gonna be pure dominance on the attack. Like, I wish I had more words I could say. I literally can't, though. It's just like that amount of money being spent so well. Like, they saved up for this year, for these moments. And it's the fact, too, that these guys are young. You know, it's not like Man U where we're buying 30-year-old strikers and shit half the time. It's like, nah, they are investing for, like, a potentially decade-long dominance. And I'm scared. I am scared.
It was definitely wild.
Yeah. I just don't have words. I can't. You see how flustered I am as a United fan with all this. Like,
this is what Liverpool's doing to us, man. This is crazy. They said, hold up, we're gonna go have the most titles in English history, and then they said we're gonna go extend that gap while United's fighting to get into the top half. Liverpool's
fighting to stay in the Prem, bro.
Fighting to stay in the Premier League. Liverpool's about to go crazy on a crazy run. And like you said, the biggest thing here is future-proofing the squad. Because Salah's obviously, like 33 at this point, or maybe turning 33. So he only has, I mean, he keeps in great shape. But let's say, realistically, he has like another season or two at the top level. Yeah. Now you have these super young dudes who can see the squad through till however many, 20, 30, 20, whatever. And once Salah's gone, I'm sure they're going to bring in someone. They had some kid the other day in a preseason game. I don't know if you guys saw, I forget his name. Some crazy young winger that looked absurd, like some academy kid. I think he was like 15. Right?
Oh, no.
He was crazy. So, honestly, if you bring this kid up as Salah's understudy, in maybe 2 years when Salah's out the door going to Saudi, wherever he goes, if you got this kid coming through, I'm sure they're going to buy someone else at some point as well because they just sell so well. But it's actually crazy what they're doing to the league. This year, I was looking forward to a really tight top four or maybe title race, and I still think there should be some kind of race because Arsenal. You know, if you believe the hype, Gyökeres is that guy. And if City, City, and then Chelsea, a little outside shout for maybe an early push. But Liverpool they're really trying to lap the playing field. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Eric, just on the thought of the bullying that basically happened. Liverpool literally just little bro Newcastle, bro. They said, how about we just take both? Like, y'all are waffling. We're just going to take both. What do you think about that whole saga there?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I will say, like, as someone who doesn't watch the Premier League all that much, it's a little bit unfortunate, I will say, in the sense that the Premier League is known as like the most competitive league I would say, like from an outsider's perspective. But now that you have a team that has become such a juggernaut, they just won the whole thing, and now they've just upgraded their roster. We know that on paper can mean nothing sometimes in the sport of soccer. We have had like very honest conversations about PSG and the moves that they now need to make because maybe they've probably added too many pieces. So it is a little bit interesting, but you're already at the top, man, and you're just getting stronger. So this only points to a potential like run at the Champions League, which will be interesting. I'd be down to see if there's any other teams out in Europe that can outmatch this team, even though they may not necessarily, like, you could say, like, out talent them. But it is a little bit interesting to see a team just get this strong, because now, at least from the Premier League perspective, I'm kind of like, man, I already know, I have an idea of how the next season's going to turn out. So So why even tune in at that point? And that's me just being in, like, I don't even want to say a casual fan, more like like I'll watch here and there. I'll tune in every now and then, but that's what stands out to me. But interesting to see how this plays out in the Champions League setting.
I'm calling it now, man. This is where we go full circle. Champions League final, Liverpool, Barcelona. And my boy Rashford, he's got that Man U in him. He seals the deal for the win against Liverpool.
That would be crazy.
David versus Goliath. And he comes in with the slingshot, top right corner. Gives Barca the lead, and we don't have to see Liverpool win that. So, I'm calling that right now. You can mark it. That's how it will happen.
That would be like the script. That would be a crazy script for his career. I do think that would be. I think now with Liverpool's additions, we are looking at PSG, Barcelona, Liverpool as probably the three heavy favorites going in. People are gonna say Madrid is always, always got to keep an eye out for Madrid, but they got to sort out that whole situation. We're done with the heritage talk. I know last year we put a lot of stock into that in our predictions. We're done with that talk, bro. You're gonna have to prove it on the field, figure out the X's and O's. But Liverpool, Barcelona, PSG, they all look extremely scary. And I think especially in Liverpool, like Eric, from a basketball perspective, this is like, I know we don't have drafts in soccer, but this is like if the Thunder had the number one pick in the draft after winning the finals. They just went and picked up the next best player, which is crazy. The only thing that would make your script crazier, Alexi, with Rashford is if it was in Paris, the final.
Another night in Paris, man. Do we know where this final will be?
Yeah, it's in Budapest.
Wow,
it doesn't hit the same. No offense to Budapest, but there's certain lore with Rashford in Paris. If you know, you know.
Those nights in Paris, he never fails.
Exactly. Pause. But just to wrap up the segment, there's a little more addition onto this for the Isak saga. Newcastle obviously losing their best player, their striker, their talisman. Potentially. There's no guarantees. So we talked about this, but really Newcastle are in a position of power here. Isak, same thing with how Man United. Isak's going to want to play this year going into the World Cup. If Sweden qualify, he's going to want to play. So they really do have the power, and he's still on.
Hold that boy hostage, man. Don't let Liverpool do this.
And he has years on his contract, a couple years left on his contract. So really, they can push a bargain for 140, 150. If I'm Newcastle, I'm holding out until if they don't hit 150. I ain't selling, honestly. If I'm Newcastle, but just looking at replacements in case they do have to sell. That's how we started talking about Johan Visa from Brentford, which kind of spurred on United to go get Mbuemo. That's a potential option. Nothing crazy there. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. He scores like 20 goals in the league, but I think that's not the exciting move they were looking for. But a potentially exciting one is Benjamin Sesko from Leipzig out in Germany, who, maybe not the craziest goal scorer yet, but he's a tall, technical player. I think he has a lot of comparisons to Zlatan. People comp them a lot, which is an interesting fit for Newcastle. I'd be very interested to see him in the Premier League because Arsenal were looking at him so heavily, and they ended up going Gyökeres because the potential for Sesko is there. He's so young, but he isn't proven over multiple seasons. And another club that is sniffing around him, Manchester United, although they're also looking at Calvert-Lewin. And no, I'm just kidding. But I wish I could say I was kidding. They actually were looking at Calvert-Lewin. But Ollie Watkins, they're having that debate between Ollie Watkins and Sesko. And now Newcastle also wants Sesko. So Sesko in the Premier League is looking pretty likely. We all thought it was going to be Arsenal at one point, but he still could be ended up coming to the Premier League for Newcastle United. Would you want, as United fans, Sesko at your club?
Me personally, I've seen Watkins more, just seeing him in the Prem. I would prefer Watkins, but I also think Villa's going to drive a hard bargain for someone like that. So I don't really see that as realistic as an option as Sesko. With that said, I'm kind of mixed. I haven't done my research on him and his playing and his ability. All I know are the stats, and just looking at the stats, I can't say I'm the most impressed. Like, albeit he's young, everyone sees this potential in him. But we've seen potential in plenty of players who I've mentioned previously, and that has not worked out. And potential is not enough. I mean, we got Højlund, we got Xerxes. That's enough potential on our plate for that age group. So yeah, I'm kind of mixed on that. I'm taking Watkins any day. Just Šeško though, I gotta look into a bit more. But as long as we get someone so that we could let Højlund go, respectfully. Because that he had his time. He had his time to prove himself.
He had a good run. Well, a run of all time.
He had a run.
A run.
IG captions were fire, but that was it.
That's crazy. I do think for United, obviously I'd want them to take the gamble, because it'd be funny if another young player didn't work out. But I do think United now, especially if you're bringing in Cunha and Mbeumo, you need someone who can deliver in the Premier League. That's I think they make great signings in that sense. Like Cunha can deliver in the league, Mbeumo can deliver in the league. If you get Watkins, you got a front three that consistently is going to score 10 to 15 goals minimum in the Premier League. And honestly, United have a goal scoring problem. Like they can't score goals.
That is arguably the biggest problem of the past season.
Yeah. So,
after that, maybe the midfield, but I'm a bit less concerned there with our roster.
Honestly, though, and maybe this is a whole nother conversation we could look at the end of the window, looking at all the business, but I'm not gonna lie. More and more time passes, it looks like they should have took that Bruno money. I'm not gonna lie. 100 mil would be crazy right now, but maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Thing is, even I'm gonna answer it shortly. Even if we had that Bruno money, right? I don't think with the state of the club, we would still be competing like in signings, like against the Liverpool or an Arsenal. I think they have performed better objectively. They have, and we are at this point like a brand new project. And I could understand being treated as such. And I think even if we had money to back a signing, at that point you're getting to the risky territory too. What if the player really wants to play for the club, or if that money is real enticing for them? I'm happy with the way we've done business so far, which is players who are passionate about the project. They believe in it. They don't care about the state of the club right now. They just want to be their best, be there to play, be there to improve. And I think, honestly, Bruno, culturally, is a big reason players want to come. They see his creativity. They see his versatility. They see the opportunities he gives strikers and forwards that we haven't been able to take advantage of. And I think that's part of the appeal, especially having him as a captain. I mean, I know we've debated about his antics, but at the end of the day, he is a positive influence for the team that I don't think 100 mil would have been enough for, especially in such a horrible time.
Interesting. I can see both sides on it for sure. I just wonder, and only time will tell, if when we see Bruno turn 32, 33, and you can't get much for him, hopefully it would have been worth it, and then the rebuild at least is on the way, and you can at least see, okay, Bruno was able to kick off.
That's the way I'm viewing it. Like, he can be the catalyst for that, and even like an influence for the academy, like young players, young midfielders.
And you're gonna need the academy.
Having Bruno there as someone to like look up to and like see how he plays and learn from. I mean, that's an investment you can't really calculate, how much it's worth. For sure.
But when you get ran through by Newcastle's midfield this season with Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joe Linton, and you guys have Bruno and Kobe at the double pivot, you're getting ran through. Hey man, that would be pure cinema. But either way, any last thoughts, Eric or Alexia, on the entire Isak saga and all like the the fall.
Isak, stay at Newcastle, man. It's a great team for you, man. You know, you brought them to the Champions League. Like, enjoy that season in the Champions League with Newcastle and Newcastle alone. Please, I beg you. I beg you. Please.
Yeah, man. I don't got much to say, man.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We'll keep locked in on these transfers. A lot's going down, and I think a lot more will go down because these teams aren't. Not every team's necessarily ready to start the next season. Let's just put it that way. Some teams are looking a little shaky, but I think on the other hand, some teams have done amazing business. Like, as much as we can hate on them, Liverpool, this is one of the craziest windows I've ever seen in my life. Chelsea, you've sold well, and honestly, you're able to scam. Real quick, we just sold João Felix to Saudi, to Al Nassr to go join Ronaldo for like 50 mil, bro. I don't know how. We just did that.
Bro, João Felix we got to have a whole discussion on him one day. That's another just talent.
Yeah.
That
talent, bro. Definition, bro. That dude's Pat Bevan, bro. Oh my God. But yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, transfer window has been very exciting, and I'm happy to continue covering it. But either way, thank you guys for listening and watching this week as well. You know, I usually say like last week and like next week. You know, last week maybe not, but next week we will be back. I can guarantee you that. So next week, I hope to see you guys again. Please like, subscribe, all that good algorithm stuff. We very much appreciate it, and we have a lot of fun topics coming up. If you enjoyed those World Cups, those tier lists, things like that, we're gonna have one of those for you next week. So stay tuned in with us. So thank you guys for watching once again, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace, y'all.
Peace out, man. All my WWE fans, yo, SummerSlam coming up. Hope y'all are excited. Maybe we'll talk about it. We'll see.
Yes, sir. Adios.